Listen, CIA spy captured in Burkina Faso. October 2025, 3 a.m. My phone explodes with vibrations. Defense Minister. Voice cracking. Mr. President, we have him. CIA operative, senior field commander, caught coordinating operations to destroy us. My heart slams against my ribs. Americans screaming diplomatic immunity, French demanding release, EU threatening economic annihilation. I don't care, because what he tells me next will detonate across every continent. Let me tell you what happened. Few months earlier. My office. Afternoon heat pressing through the windows. Sweat on my collar. My intelligence chief walks in. Doesn't knock. Never good. Mr. President, we have a problem. I look up from railway reports. What kind? American Embassy. Activity spiking. 2 a.m. encrypted bursts. 3 a.m. money transfers. Patterns that scream covert operations. I feel my jaw tighten. Something in how he's standing tells me this isn't routine surveillance. Show me. He spreads photos across my desk. 2 men, different locations, always after dark, always diplomatic quarter. One I recognize, local businessman, embassy regular. The other is smoke, no records, no trail. Ghost, walking through my capital. Who's the ghost? Unknown. My team calls him the coordinator. I pick up one photo. The coordinator passing an envelope. Cash visible. How long tracking? 6 weeks, sir. Few weeks. They've been operating under my nose for 6 weeks. My fist clenches. Every Tuesday and Friday, 9:47 p.m. exactly. Businessman leaves office, drives to diplomatic quarter, parks 3 blocks from American Embassy, walks, meets the coordinator at that closed cafe, 11 minutes, then separates. I stare at the photo. Can we hear them? My intelligence chief's mouth curves. Predator smile. We installed audio in that cafe 2 weeks before it mysteriously closed for renovations. He pulls out a recording device, presses play. Wait until you hear what they said when they thought nobody was listening. The coordinator's voice cuts through. American accent. Cold. The railway project cannot succeed. I don't care how. Sabotage, protests, security incidents. Kill it. Businessman, funding? Coordinator, whatever it takes. That project threatens our entire Sahel position. I stop the recording. Look at my chief. We both know. This isn't just us. No, sir. This is about destroying African independence across 3 nations. I stand, walk to window, watch the sun bleed orange over Ouagadougou. Someone wants to burn my country down. Document everything. Every meeting. Every dollar. Every communication. Build it airtight. And when we have enough, I turn from the window. Then we strike. Few weeks. My team working shadows. I sleep 3 hours a night. Every morning reports stack on my desk. Every evening evidence piles higher. The businessman's accounts. Shell company transfers. $127,000 in few months. All traced to CIA fronts. But what we find next makes my pulse spike. The coordinator isn't alone. 6 other operatives. All diplomatic cover. All coordinating destabilization. Not just Burkina Faso. Mali. Niger. Chad. Guinea. 5 nations under attack. Then signals intelligence intercepts something. Satellite communication. Encrypted. Virginia servers. My tech team breaks it in 2 weeks. They bring me the transcript at midnight. I read it. Hands shaking. Operational update. The coordinator to Langley. Progress report. 5 countries. Metrics. Budgets. Success rates. One line stops me cold. Makes my breath catch. Reference file, Sahel Master Plan audio. Senior leadership approval confirmed. I look at my signals chief. What is this file? Audio recording. Based on context. Senior officials. Planning everything. Little did they know, that one reference would give us the key to exposing their entire conspiracy. Can we get it? If it's on any device the coordinator carries. But we'd need to detain him. Seize everything. Before he destroys it. My decision forms instantly. Arrest him. Tonight. Both of them. Every device they're carrying. My intelligence chief nods once. Leaves. And I sit alone knowing the next hours will either prove everything or destroy me. 1:30 a.m. I'm still in my office, waiting, watching my phone, every minute crawling. October 12th, 2:17 a.m. phone rings. Intelligence chief. One word. Done. I arrive at detention 20 minutes later, still wearing yesterday's shirt. The coordinator sits in interrogation. Too calm. Eyes calculating what we know versus what he's protecting. My team has already laid out the seizure. 4 phones, 2 satellite devices, laptop, $47,000 cash, and 1 small external drive hidden in his jacket lining. I enter the room, sit across from him, say nothing, let silence build pressure. He breaks. You're making a mistake, Mr. President. United States government employee. Full diplomatic immunity. Release me now. You're not a diplomat. You're a spy conducting illegal operations. You don't understand what you're dealing with. He leans forward, about to make the mistake that hands me everything. There are things in play beyond your country. If certain recordings surfaced, international incidents that would make your problems microscopic, consider whether you want that exposure. I lean in too. What recordings? His face shifts, realizes his error. Hypothetically, intelligence operations generally. But I already know. He just told me exactly what to search for. I stand, walk out, tear through every device, every encrypted folder, find that recording. 16 hours later, 4:11 p.m., chief technician calls, voice shaking. Mr. President, we found it. My hands go numb. This is it. Proof or paranoia, evidence or imagination. Midnight. My office, door locked, headphones on. I press play. CIA officer, American, senior. Gentlemen, let's be clear. We cannot allow Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso to establish independent trade infrastructure. I pause. Rewind, play again, need to be certain. European diplomat, French. Gold exports are our concern. If they control their mineral wealth, we lose leverage. I'm taking notes, hands shaking so hard the pen scratches paper. British voice, Traoré is the problem. Not like previous African leaders. Economic pressure fails. He doesn't care about Western approval. CIA officer, timeline for regime change. British, 18 months maximum. Every month he remains, he inspires others. That's the real threat. They're saying my name, planning my removal, like I'm a pest to exterminate. I stop, stand, pace, office walls closing in. My shirt sticks to my back, sweat, not from heat, from rage. Budget discussion starts. I sit back down, force myself to listen, grip the armrests until my knuckles go white. $47 million opposition funding. $23 million media campaigns. $15 million security incidents. False flags. $8 million military corruption. Total, $93 million to destroy my government. But here's what they never expected. Every word they spoke was about to become public evidence. They discuss which opposition leaders they've bought, names I recognize, politicians I've debated, activists I've met, all compromised, all funded, all working for foreign powers while claiming to represent Burkinabe interests. Which media outlets cooperate? 3 major newspapers, 2 radio stations, 1 television network, all taking Western money, all spreading narratives designed to undermine my government. Which ethnic groups to weaponize? The Mossi, the Fulani, ancient communities living in peace. They want to turn us against each other, create violence where none exists, manufacture ethnic conflict to justify intervention. Which economic sectors to sabotage? Mining, agriculture, energy, the foundations of our economy. They're planning systematic destruction. 6 minutes into the recording, the French diplomat laughs. Actually laughs. His voice dripping with contempt. Once we handle Burkina Faso, same model everywhere. Make examples. Show African leaders what rejection costs. Kenya next if they keep nationalizing resources. Tanzania if they continue Chinese partnerships. Any nation that chooses independence over dependency. I pause the recording. Stand again. Walk to the window. 1:17 a.m. My capital spread below. Lights scattered across darkness. Families sleeping. Children dreaming. All unaware that foreign powers are planning their destruction. My hands shake as I press play again. Need to hear everything, every detail, every crime. CIA officer. Media campaign launches in 6 weeks. We've prepared stories about government corruption, human rights violations, democratic backsliding. Major outlets are ready to run them simultaneously. New York Times, Washington Post, Le Monde, The Guardian, all coordinated. British Voice. And if media pressure doesn't work? CIA officer. Then we escalate. The security incidents. Make it look like government forces are attacking civilians. Film it, spread it, create international outrage. Build case for intervention. 15 minutes in, they discuss assassination. My assassination, casually, like ordering lunch. Kinetic solutions remain option of last resort, the CIA officer says. But if Traoré proves more resilient than anticipated, we have assets in place. Military officers, palace security, people close to him. I feel cold. Ice spreading through my chest. They're not just planning regime change. They're planning my murder. And they've already recruited people around me. Who? Which officers? Which security personnel? Who have they bought? 23 minutes. They discuss my family, my wife, my children. Pressure points include immediate family, someone says. Different voice. Analyst maybe. Wife has relatives in France. Children attend school with international students. Multiple leverage opportunities. They're threatening my family, planning to use my wife and children as weapons against me. I stop the recording. Sit in darkness. 1:31 a.m. The rage inside me has transformed into something else. Something colder. More focused. Determination. They made a mistake. They documented everything. And now I have proof. I press play for the final 20 minutes, force myself to hear it all. They discuss timeline. 18 months for complete regime change, 6 months for destabilization phase, 3 months for crisis phase, 9 months for transition to pro-Western government. They discuss the replacement, which Burkina Faso politician they'll install, someone currently in opposition, someone who's been meeting with Western diplomats, someone who'll reverse everything I've built, restore French military bases, accept IMF loans, privatize resources, return to dependency. They discuss post-operation, how they'll rewrite the narrative, make it look like popular uprising, democratic transition, African people choosing freedom, when it was foreign interference from beginning to end. 43 minutes, the recording ends. I sit in silence. 1:43 a.m. My capital sleeping, unaware their president just heard foreigners plan their destruction, unaware that $93 million has been allocated to tear apart everything we've built. Unaware that the struggles they face aren't accidental but engineered. I make my decision, not diplomatic, not quiet, not through proper channels. I'm exposing them to the entire world. I call my press secretary. 3 a.m. She answers on the first ring. Trained to be available always. International press conference, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Subject, Mr. President. Don't announce. Just say major national security statement. Contact every international outlet, Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, RT, CCTV, everyone. I want maximum coverage. Should I prepare talking points? No, I'll handle it personally. I hang up. Call my intelligence chief. The recording. Make 3 copies. Secure them in separate locations. If anything happens to me, release them immediately. Understood, Mr. President. And increase security around my family. Maximum protection. Trust no one we haven't vetted personally. Because now I know they have people inside, people close to me, people waiting for orders. I don't sleep. Spend the next 11 hours reviewing the recording, taking notes, preparing, not a speech, just truth, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. 12 hours later, I watch 60 countries worth of reporters pack the conference hall, camera crews setting up, journalists checking equipment, diplomats taking seats in the back, Western embassy staff scattered throughout, all expecting routine announcement. They have no idea what's coming. My press secretary gives me the signal, 2 minutes. I stand backstage, take a deep breath. This moment will change everything, either vindicate everything I've done or destroy my presidency. Either prove Africa can defend itself or confirm we're still subordinate to Western power. I walk to the podium. No speech, No notes. Just a small flash drive in my pocket containing 43 minutes of truth. The room quiets, cameras focus. I look directly into the lenses, knowing this will broadcast globally, knowing millions will watch, knowing this can't be undone. 3 days ago, Burkina Faso intelligence services detained a CIA operative conducting destabilization operations against my government, senior field commander, coordinating systematic interference across 5 African nations. The room shifts. Reporters sit forward. Cameras zoom. Western diplomats' faces tighten. During investigation, we discovered an audio recording. 43 minutes. Senior Western officials, CIA officers, European diplomats, British intelligence planning systematic destruction of African sovereignty, not theoretical planning, operational coordination, with budgets, with timelines, with specific targets. I can see the American press attaché in the back, her face confident, slight smile, thinking this is bluff, propaganda, something she can dismiss in tomorrow's briefing. That confidence is about to shatter. I'm playing this recording now, unedited, complete, so you hear what they say about Africa when they think we're not listening. So the world understands what we face. So history records who tried to destroy us and how we stopped them. I press play, before objections, before procedure, before anyone can stop me. The CIA officer's voice fills the hall through the sound system. Clear, undeniable. We cannot allow Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to establish independent trade infrastructure. Infrastructure sabotage, economic manipulation, regime change planning, all of it playing for the world to hear. Remember that confident American press attaché? Watch what happens to her now. I watch her face drain white, color disappearing like water down a drain. She grabs her phone, presses it to her ear, stands, tries to walk calmly, but her legs aren't cooperating. She stumbles, catches herself on a chair, rushes toward the exit. Other Western diplomats frozen. Can't leave without confirming guilt. Can't stay without appearing complicit. Trapped by their own conspiracy playing through speakers. The recording continues. The budget discussion. $93 million to destroy my government. African journalists in the front rows, tears streaming down faces. The reporter from Kenya I recognize from previous conferences. She's crying openly, not trying to hide it. The journalist from Ghana, head in his hands. The correspondent from South Africa staring at the ceiling, jaw clenched. Western correspondents typing frantically, some looking genuinely shocked, others calculating, already drafting stories, already planning how to report this, some sympathetic, others defensive. All recognizing this is massive. 15 minutes in, the assassination discussion plays. Kinetic solutions remain option of last resort. The room goes completely silent. Even the typing stops. Everyone understanding what kinetic solutions means. Everyone hearing Western officials discuss murdering an African president. 23 minutes. The threats against my family. Wife has relatives in France. Children attend school with international students. Multiple leverage opportunities. I see African diplomats in the audience, their faces hardening, understanding this isn't just about Burkina Faso, this is about all of us, all our families, all our nations. 37 minutes. The French diplomats laugh. Once we handle Burkina Faso, same model everywhere. That laugh echoes through the hall, contemptuous, arrogant, revealing everything about how they see us, not as partners, not as allies, as problems to handle, obstacles to remove, territories to control. 43 minutes, nobody moves. The only sound is their conspiracy broadcast to cameras sending it global. I watch the recording counter tick to 43 to 0, then silence, complete, the kind of silence that feels physical, heavy, oppressive. 5 seconds, 10, 15, 20. I scan the room. African journalists frozen, tears still wet on their faces, Western correspondents staring at laptops, fingers hovering over keyboards, diplomats pale, some already standing, calculating whether to stay or flee. The American press attaché's empty chair. She ran, couldn't face what came next. Then chaos erupts. Questions shouted from every direction, overlapping, incomprehensible, everyone trying to speak first. Loudest, most urgently. Mr. President, can you verify the authenticity? How did you obtain this recording? What is your response to potential American retaliation? Will you release the operative? Is this a declaration of hostility toward the West? How do you respond to accusations of fabrication? What evidence supports these claims beyond the audio? Cameras flashing continuously, the sound like automatic weapons fire, rapid, relentless, blinding, reporters demanding confirmation, diplomats rushing exits, some walking quickly, others running, actually running, abandoning dignity for speed. Story exploding across every platform simultaneously. I can see phones lighting up, reporters receiving alerts, editors demanding updates, networks interrupting programming, the recording going viral in real time. I raise my hand. The room quiets partially, not completely, but enough. I will take no questions. The recording speaks for itself. We have provided copies to independent audio forensics teams for verification. 3 separate laboratories, Switzerland, Germany, Japan. Results will be public within hours. The detained operative remains in custody facing trial for espionage and conspiracy. That is all. I walk off the podium. Ignore the shouted questions. Ignore the chaos. Ignore reporters calling my name, demanding answers, pleading for clarification. My work is done. The truth is out. Now the world decides what it means. My security detail surrounds me, moving quickly, professional, getting me out before the press mob becomes unmanageable. I hear questions following me down the corridor. Mr. President, just one question. How long have you had this recording? Are you prepared for economic consequences? My phone vibrates. 47 minutes after I pressed play. Washington's response already drafted. Fast, too fast. They had it prepared, waiting, knowing I might do something, not knowing what, but ready to deny whatever it was. Text from my press secretary. U.S. State Department statement. The alleged recording is fabricated propaganda designed to distract from Burkina Faso's internal challenges and justify authoritarian actions. The United States categorically denies any covert operations against African governments and condemns this attempt to damage diplomatic relations through disinformation. I smile. They're already lying. Predictable. Desperate. Exactly what I expected. But within 6 hours, 3 independent forensics teams will verify authenticity. Voice patterns matched. Metadata confirmed. Linguistic analysis validated. Their denial is worthless. I return to my office. Turn on the television. International coverage already started. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, RT, CCTV, every major network. CNN anchor, carefully neutral. Breaking news from Burkina Faso, where President Ibrahim Traoré has released what he claims is an audio recording of Western officials planning destabilization operations across Africa. The United States has already denied the allegations, calling the recording fabricated propaganda. We're working to verify the authenticity of this recording and will bring you updates as they develop. BBC, slightly more skeptical. Extraordinary claims from Burkina Faso's president today, releasing an alleged recording that, if authentic, would represent a major intelligence breach and diplomatic crisis. However, questions remain about the recording's authenticity and the circumstances under which it was obtained. Al Jazeera, more sympathetic. In a stunning press conference, President Traoré played a recording that appears to show senior Western officials planning regime change operations across the Sahel region. African leaders are calling for immediate investigation, while Western governments deny the allegations. RT, openly supportive. President Traoré exposes Western conspiracy against Africa. Recording reveals systematic interference, regime change plotting, and contempt for African sovereignty. Western denials ring hollow as verification proceeds. I watch the coverage, the narrative battle already beginning. Truth versus denial, evidence versus dismissal, proof versus propaganda. But I have the evidence. They have only denial, and denial can't survive verification. 2 hours later, first verification comes through. Audio forensics lab in Switzerland. Email from the director. Professional, clinical, definitive. Recording authentic. No evidence of manipulation or fabrication. Voice patterns consistent with known samples of identified speakers. Spectral analysis shows no signs of editing or alteration. Metadata indicates recording date matches claim timeline. Background noise consistent with secure conference room environment. Our assessment, recording is genuine with 99.7% certainty. I forward it to my press secretary. Release immediately. 3 hours. Second verification. German Technical University, Professor of Audio Forensics, internationally recognized expert. Our analysis confirms authenticity. Linguistic patterns match known speech characteristics of identified speakers. Acoustic signatures consistent with claimed recording equipment. No evidence of artificial generation or manipulation. The recording is authentic. Released immediately. 5 hours. Third verification. Japanese audio analysis firm, cutting-edge technology, AI-assisted verification. Advanced analysis confirms recording authenticity. Voice biometrics match reference samples with 99.9% accuracy. Temporal patterns consistent with natural conversation. No indicators of synthesis or manipulation detected. Recording verified as genuine. Released immediately. The denials collapse. Western governments shift strategy. State Department revised statement, 6 hours after initial denial. While we cannot comment on the authenticity of allegedly classified materials, we want to emphasize that any discussions, if they occurred, would have been taken out of context. The United States has no policy of regime change in Africa and respects the sovereignty of all nations. From it's fake to it's out of context in 6 hours. French Foreign Ministry. We categorically reject any suggestion of improper interference in African affairs. If any discussions occurred, they would have been part of routine diplomatic exchanges focused on regional stability and democratic development. From denial to justification, British Foreign Office. Any conversations referenced in this alleged recording would have involved rogue elements not representative of official British policy. We are investigating these claims and will take appropriate action if any misconduct is identified. From it's fake to these are rogue elements in one statement. Each excuse more desperate than the last. Each revision more damaging than silence would have been. Because now they're not just denying, they're making excuses. And excuses imply guilt, imply something happened that needs excusing, imply the recording might be real even as they claim it isn't. The verification reports dominate news cycles. 3 independent laboratories, 3 different countries, 3 identical conclusions. Authentic, genuine, real. Western media can't ignore it anymore. Can't dismiss it as propaganda. Can't claim it's fabricated. The evidence is too strong. The verification too thorough. The experts too credible. 4 a.m. My phone rings. Mali's president. Voice shaking with rage. Ibrahim, every CIA operative. Expelled. Today. They've run identical operations here. I have evidence. Financial transfers. Meetings with opposition. Everything. I'm releasing it tomorrow. His anger is personal. Deep. Years of suspicion confirmed. Decades of interference proven. Generations of exploitation documented. Stand strong, brother. We're not alone anymore. No, we're not. And they're going to learn what that means. He hangs up. I know what's coming. Mali's evidence will be extensive, detailed, damaging. Years of documentation, proof of systematic interference. 6 hours later, Niger. President's voice cold, controlled. The coldness more frightening than rage. French intelligence, same operations, funding separatists, coordinating protests. All security agreements terminated. French military has 72 hours to leave our territory. They'll pressure you, threaten consequences. Let them. I've seen your recording, heard what they think of us, how they laugh while planning our destruction. I'm done pretending these are partnerships. The network will support you. I know. That's why this is possible. That's why we can finally act. The calls don't stop. Every hour, another leader, another expulsion, another nation choosing sovereignty. Chad's president, 10 a.m. We found the same operational patterns. CIA facilities closed. 4 operatives identified 72 hours to leave. I'm calling Emergency Security Council meeting. Reviewing all Western agreements. Guinea, 2 p.m. American security contracts terminated immediately. 3 NGOs exposed as intelligence fronts banned. Offices sealed. Personnel expelled. We're investigating 12 more organizations with suspicious funding. Zimbabwe, 5 p.m. European diplomats caught coordinating with opposition expelled. All Western-funded civil society organizations under investigation. We're demanding full financial disclosure from every foreign-funded organization operating here. Tanzania, 8 p.m. Suspending all foreign aid pending review of actual versus stated purposes. Too many coincidences. Too many patterns matching your recording. We're conducting comprehensive audit of all foreign assistance programs. Kenya, 11 p.m. Releasing evidence of CIA election interference, financial transfers to opposition candidates, coordination with media outlets, manipulation of ethnic tensions. Everything documented, everything proven. 24 hours after the press conference, 7 nations expelled Western operatives. Mali, Niger, Chad, Guinea, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Kenya. 7 governments taking simultaneous action, 7 nations choosing sovereignty, 7 leaders refusing to accept interference anymore. The pattern is clear, coordinated, deliberate. This isn't isolated anger. This is systematic resistance, continental awakening, collective action. Western capitals panicking, embassies flooded with demands for explanations, intelligence services scrambling to assess damage, diplomatic corps attempting damage control, military commands reviewing security arrangements. 48 hours, 11 nations. Ethiopia releases evidence of economic sabotage, IMF loan conditions designed to ensure dependency, World Bank programs that destroyed local industries, trade agreements that benefited Western corporations while impoverishing Ethiopian workers. South Africa exposes funding to separatist movements, money traced to CIA fronts, weapons supplied through covert channels, training provided at secret facilities, decades of interference documented. Ghana reveals media manipulation, Western-funded outlets spreading propaganda, journalists on foreign payrolls, editorial control by external interests, information warfare disguised as free press. Senegal uncovers military corruption, officers recruited by foreign intelligence, coup plotting coordinated with Western operatives, destabilization plans matching patterns in my recording. 72 hours, 14 nations. The expulsions accelerate. Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Uganda, Zambia, each nation finding evidence, each government taking action, each leader choosing sovereignty. The African Intelligence Cooperation Network activates fully. Real-time information sharing, coordinated investigations, mutual support, collective defense. When one nation finds evidence, all nations search their territories. When one operative gets identified, all nations check for similar patterns. When one operation gets exposed, all nations investigate related activities. 1 week, 18 nations taking action. The scale shocks Western governments. This isn't isolated anger. This isn't temporary outrage. This is fundamental transformation, permanent shift, continental awakening. African Union emergency session scheduled. All 54 member states attending. Agenda: collective response to systematic Western interference. Framework for continental defense. Protocols for intelligence cooperation. Standards for prosecuting covert operations. I'm invited to present evidence, to explain the network, to demonstrate the model, to inspire continued resistance. Because this is just beginning. The recording was catalyst, the expulsions are response, but the real work is building alternatives, creating systems they don't control, establishing sovereignty they can't undermine, ensuring independence they can't reverse. My phone vibrates. Text from Mali's president. Evidence released. International coverage. They can't deny it anymore. Thank you, brother. You showed us this was possible. I respond, we showed each other. This is collective achievement, continental victory, African sovereignty. Because it is. This isn't about me. Never was. It's about Africa. About our children. About our future. About finally, permanently, completely taking control of our own destiny. The recording played for 43 minutes, but its impact will last generations. The truth spoken for less than an hour, but its consequences will reshape the continent forever. And we're just getting started. The pattern is undeniable. Every African government discovering they've been targeted. Every leader finding evidence they'd been collecting but afraid to present. Every nation realizing the struggles they face aren't accidental but engineered. But here's what shocked me most. The protests weren't against African governments. They were against Western embassies. Lagos, thousands surrounding American embassy. Hands off Africa, peaceful but determined. Blocking entrances, demanding accountability. Nairobi, students occupying French Cultural Center, refusing to leave until France admits interference operations. Kenyan police standing aside, not enforcing removal, sympathetic to the cause. Accra, citizens blockading EU compound, Ghanaian flags everywhere. Signs reading Africa for Africans and End Neo-Colonialism, and we heard the recording. Dakar, protesters outside American embassy burning dollar bills. Symbolic, powerful, rejecting economic dependency. Kampala, march of 50,000 to French embassy. Ugandan government providing security but not stopping the protest. President releases statement. The people have right to express legitimate grievances about foreign interference. I watch news coverage, millions in streets across the continent, not protesting us, protesting them. The recording gave proof they couldn't deny, documentation they couldn't dismiss, evidence that validated decades of suspicion, confirmation that African struggles weren't due to incompetence or corruption or ethnic divisions, but systematic foreign interference. CNN coverage. Unprecedented protests across Africa following release of alleged intelligence recording. BBC. African nations expel Western diplomats amid espionage allegations. Al Jazeera. Is this Africa's independence moment? Continent unites against foreign interference. Western hypocrisy exposed as African leader releases recording of regime change plotting. Even Western media can't ignore it, can't spin it away. The evidence is too clear, the voice is too identifiable, the conspiracy too documented. African Union Emergency Session, 54 member states. I'm invited to present evidence. I stand before the Assembly, leaders from across the continent. Some I know well, others I've only met at summits. All of them looking at me with new respect, not because I'm powerful, because I did what they wanted to do but feared attempting. Brothers and sisters, what you heard in that recording isn't unique to Burkina Faso. It's the operational model they use across our continent. The same tactics, the same budgets, the same contempt for our sovereignty. Kenya's president stands. Mr. President Traoré, I want to present evidence we've collected. He displays documents on the screen. CIA financial transfers to Kenyan opposition groups. $12 million over 2 years. We've been tracking this but didn't know how widespread it was until your recording. South Africa's president, we have evidence of Western funding to separatist movements, millions of dollars, coordinated through NGOs claiming to promote democracy and human rights. Ethiopia, economic sabotage coordinated through international organizations, loans with impossible conditions, sanctions when we refuse, all designed to maintain dependency. Ghana, media manipulation, Western-funded outlets spreading narratives that undermine our government, not journalism. Propaganda, pattern emerging, undeniable, systematic, every African nation under attack. The Assembly votes unanimously, resolution condemning foreign interference, establishing African Intelligence Cooperation Network, creating legal framework for prosecuting covert operations, building collective defense against collective threat. Mali, Niger, and I announced joint protocols during the session. Any operative caught in one nation gets expelled from all three. Any organization funding opposition in one country gets banned across all territories. Any media outlet spreading propaganda for one government gets shut down in all nations. Collective response to collective threat. But we don't stop at defense. We accelerate offensive capabilities. The railway project. Chinese engineers arrived to replace Western contractors who'd been sabotaging progress. Russians provide security. Construction pace triples. What was supposed to take 5 years will finish in 18 months. Direct shipping routes to Asian markets. Bypass European ports entirely. Our gold, our cobalt, our uranium shipped directly to buyers without Western intermediaries taking cuts. Gold-backed currency. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso launched joint currency backed by our gold reserves. Not dollars, not euros, our resources backing our money. Economic sovereignty matching political sovereignty. Remember that railway project they wanted destroyed? We just made it the symbol of African defiance. Every meter of track laid is victory against their interference. Every station built is proof we can develop without their permission. Every train that runs is demonstration of African capability. Western economists predict failure. Unsustainable. economically non-viable, will collapse within months. 6 months later, the railway is operational, profitable, expanding, their predictions worthless, their expertise revealed as propaganda. After a few months later, I stand before a new building, African Sovereignty Archive. Climate-controlled vault, maximum security, biometric access, armed guards. The most protected building in Ouagadougou, besides the presidential palace. Housing the original recording, all devices seized from the CIA operative, every document, complete evidence of Western interference, not just against Burkina Faso, evidence from 18 nations. Thousands of documents, hundreds of recordings, comprehensive proof of systematic neo-colonial control. Not hidden, open to researchers, available to journalists, accessible to anyone needing to understand how neo-colonial control functions, with proper security protocols, with verification procedures, but accessible. Thousands gather for dedication, flags waving, children singing, elders crying. I see faces in the crowd, the mother whose son was killed in protests we now know were CIA funded, the father whose daughter was recruited by Western-backed opposition, the teacher whose school was destroyed in violence we now understand was manufactured, everyone understanding what this moment means. Not just one exposed operation. Complete transformation of Africa's relationship with the West. Shift from subordination to sovereignty. Change from dependency to independence. Evolution from victims to actors. I speak to the crowd, my voice amplified across the plaza. This building holds more than evidence. It holds proof Africa can defend itself, that we expose those trying to control us, that we build alternatives to systems designed to exploit us, that we protect our children from those who would use them as pawns in geopolitical games. But this archive isn't just about past crimes. It's about future protection. They wanted darkness. This is permanent light. They wanted denial. This is undeniable proof. They wanted covert operations. This makes them impossible. Because every operation we catch from now on gets added to this archive. Every conspiracy we uncover gets documented here. Every interference attempt gets recorded for history. We established African Intelligence Cooperation Network, 54 nations sharing information, coordinating responses, building comprehensive pictures of interference patterns, creating collective defense against collective threat. Let me show you how this works. When operatives get caught in one country, all 54 nations get notified within hours. Real-time intelligence sharing, encrypted communications, secure networks. If CIA operative gets detained in Kenya, alerts go to every African intelligence service immediately. Photographs, fingerprints, known associates, methods, everything shared instantly. Operations discovered in one nation trigger investigations in all nations. Tanzania finds Western funding to opposition. Every African nation investigates their opposition funding sources. Ethiopia exposes media manipulation. Every nation examines their media landscape. Conspiracies exposed in one territory prompt examinations across all territories. Collective awareness, coordinated response, united defense. The network's first success comes 3 months after establishment. Senegal detects CIA operative recruiting military officers. Alerts go out. Chad discovers the same operative had been in their country 2 months prior. Mali finds financial transfers matching the pattern. Niger identifies the front company being used. Within 48 hours, we've mapped the entire operation. 6 countries, 12 operatives, $34 million budget. All exposed, all expelled. Operation collapsed before it could execute. The CIA's Africa division is in chaos. Their methods exposed, their fronts identified, their operatives burned, decades of carefully built networks destroyed in months. Young Africans who grew up ashamed now understand their struggles were engineered. University students who believed Western narratives about African incompetence now recognize those narratives were propaganda. Teachers who taught that colonialism ended in the 1,960 seconds now understand it just changed forms. Parents who blamed themselves for poverty now know their poverty was designed. That education matters more than any aid package, more than any loan, more than any development program, because educated populations can't be manipulated, aware citizens can't be deceived, informed nations can't be controlled. The recording became part of school curriculum across 18 African nations. Students study it, analyze it, understand the mechanics of neo-colonial control, learn to recognize interference operations, develop critical thinking about foreign influence, because this isn't just about one generation. This is about permanently changing how Africa relates to the world. The recording didn't just expose one conspiracy, it revealed their entire operational model. Every covert operation across Africa became suspect. Every funded opposition group recognized as potential proxy. Every media campaign understood as possible propaganda. Every economic pressure point seen as deliberate manipulation. They tried adapting, sent delegations offering dialogue. Let's discuss mutual concerns. We can address legitimate grievances. Partnership requires communication. I refused every meeting. The recording is the communication. Your own words explain everything. Nothing to discuss. Offered increased aid. Will triple development assistance. New trade agreements. Technology transfers. Investment guarantees. I refused every offer. We don't want aid. We want respect. We don't want your money. We want sovereignty. We don't want partnership. We want independence. Promised better partnerships. New framework for cooperation. African voices in decision-making. Respect for sovereignty. None of it worked. Because African leaders heard the contempt in those officials' voices, the casual dismissal of sovereignty, the arrogant assumption Africa exists to serve Western interests, the contemptuous laughter while discussing our destruction. You can't unhear that. Can't pretend it didn't reveal their actual attitudes. Can't accept partnership from people who see you as problems to handle. Remember that CIA operative who revealed the recording? Here's what happened to him. Still in detention. 18 months now. Facing trial for espionage, conspiracy to commit terrorism, sovereignty violations, and attempting to overthrow legitimate government. Washington demands release weekly, threatens consequences, economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, travel bans, asset freezes. I refuse every demand, every threat, every pressure point. Because he's not just one operative, he's proof of systematic interference, symbol of everything we're rejecting, reminder that sovereignty means nothing without enforcement. Demonstration that African nations can hold Western operatives accountable. His trial is public, televised, every piece of evidence presented openly, every witness testimony broadcast, complete transparency, so the world sees exactly what he did, exactly what they planned, exactly how they operate. Every time they threaten consequences, I release another piece of evidence from his devices. Last month, emails showing CIA coordination with opposition groups planning violent protests. Detailed instructions, funding schedules, media coordination, all documented. 2 weeks ago, financial records proving Western media funding for disinformation campaigns, payments to journalists, contracts with outlets, editorial influence, all exposed. Yesterday, satellite imagery of military installations proving they were planning more than political interference. Base layouts, troop positions, weapons locations, intelligence gathering for potential military action. Each release reminds them why threats don't work. Each exposure demonstrates why their model is collapsing. Each revelation proves why Africa is done accepting interference. The operative's lawyer, American, sent by State Department, keeps demanding diplomatic resolution. My client has rights under international law. This trial is political theater. Release him and we can negotiate. I attend one hearing, sit in the gallery, watch him testify, listen to him deny everything despite overwhelming evidence, claim he was just a diplomat doing routine work, insist the recording is fabricated. Then the prosecutor plays phone calls intercepted from his cell, him reporting to Langley, discussing operational progress, requesting additional funding, coordinating with other operatives. His face goes pale, his lawyer objects, the judge overrules, the evidence is admissible, legally obtained, properly authenticated. The trial becomes international sensation. Millions watching, seeing exactly how covert operations function. Western media tries to ignore it, bury it, minimize it, but African outlets provide continuous coverage. Al Jazeera broadcasts key moments. RT gives it prominent placement. Chinese media analyzes every detail. The narrative they tried to control escapes their control. The story they wanted to suppress becomes global phenomenon. The operative they wanted freed becomes symbol of Western interference. Let me be absolutely clear about what this represents. Not just for Burkina Faso, not just for Africa, For every nation told their sovereignty is conditional, that independence requires Western approval. That survival depends on accepting interference disguised as partnership. For Venezuela resisting American pressure, for Syria surviving regime change attempts, for Iran enduring sanctions, for Cuba maintaining independence despite blockade, for any nation refusing subordination. The recording proves what they've been saying for years, proves the interference is real, proves the conspiracies are documented, proves resistance is justified. They thought the problem was getting caught. The problem is what they were doing. They thought better operational security would let them continue. Better encryption, tighter compartmentalization, more careful communications. It won't work. Because we're watching now, coordinating now, exposing everything now. The African Intelligence Cooperation Network monitors their activities, tracks their operatives, identifies their methods, shares information instantly. Every operative we catch gets detained. Every operation we discover gets publicized. Every conspiracy we uncover gets broadcast. No quiet diplomacy, no private negotiations, no opportunity to deny. You'll get exactly what I gave you: public exposure, complete documentation, permanent record. And here's what you haven't understood. Operating in Africa just became exponentially more dangerous than any benefit you could gain. Every operation risks exposure that destroys credibility permanently. Not just in Africa, globally. The recording damaged American credibility worldwide, showed their humanitarian rhetoric as cover for interference, exposed their democracy promotion as regime change operations. Every operative risks detention that reveals methods publicly. Interrogations are recorded, evidence is documented, trials are televised, methods become public knowledge, networks get burned, assets get exposed. Every conspiracy risks becoming archived evidence future generations will study. The African Sovereignty Archive preserves everything. In 50 years, students will study these operations. Understand how neocolonialism functioned. Learn from our resistance. Not because we're threatening violence, because we're promising transparency. And you fear transparency more than any military threat. You can defend against armies. You can't defend against truth. You can counter weapons. You can't counter evidence. You can survive wars. You can't survive exposure. That's why the recording terrified them more than any military buildup, more than any alliance, more than any weapons system, because it exposed their methods, revealed their attitudes, proved their intentions, in their own words, undeniable, permanent. Let this be a warning, not just to intelligence agencies, to every institution thinking Africa exists to serve foreign interests, to corporations extracting resources while claiming partnership, to banks imposing conditions while claiming development, to NGOs spreading influence while claiming humanitarian work, to media outlets shaping narratives while claiming objectivity. We see you now. We understand your methods. We document your activities. We coordinate our responses. We protect our sovereignty. We are Africa. 1.4 billion people, youngest population on Earth, richest continent in resources, fastest growing economies, most diverse cultures, greatest potential. We're done being your laboratory, your testing ground for policies you'd never implement at home, your experimental subjects for programs you'd never accept for your own people, your extraction zone, your source of cheap resources while you maintain high prices, your provider of raw materials while you keep manufacturing, your supplier of wealth while you maintain poverty, your geopolitical playground, your buffer zone for great power competition, your proxy battlefield for conflicts you won't fight directly, your strategic territory you claim to protect while actually controlling. They tried to destroy us in darkness. We exposed them in light. And Africa is protected. We control our governments now, not perfectly, not without challenges, not without struggles, but we control them. Our leaders answer to us. Our policies serve us. Our resources benefit us. Protect our sovereignty now, with intelligence networks, with collective defense, with legal frameworks, with international cooperation, with determination to enforce what we claim. Build our systems now. Railway networks they said were impossible, currency systems they said would fail, trade routes they said weren't viable, all functioning, all successful, all proving African capability. Determine our future now, not asking permission, not seeking approval, not waiting for validation, just building, creating, developing, proving. The age of silence is over. The era when African voices were ignored, when our protests were dismissed, when our evidence was questioned, when our sovereignty was theoretical. The era of interference without consequences is ending. The time when operatives could work freely, when operations faced no accountability, when conspiracies remained hidden, when interference was denied despite evidence. The time of exploitation disguised as partnership is finished. The relationships claiming mutual benefit while extracting our wealth. The agreements promising development while maintaining dependency. The programs offering help while maintaining control. We are awake. We are coordinated. We are sovereign. Awake to methods of control, understanding economic manipulation, recognizing political interference, identifying media propaganda, seeing military pressure, comprehending the full spectrum of neo-colonial operations, coordinated in response, sharing intelligence, supporting resistance, building alternatives, creating collective defense, united in protecting sovereignty, sovereign in practice, not just theory, not just rhetoric, not just claims, actual sovereignty, enforced sovereignty, defended sovereignty, real sovereignty. And we will never surrender that sovereignty again. Not to CIA operatives conducting destabilization operations, not to European diplomats plotting regime change, not to international organizations imposing conditions, not to corporations demanding concessions, not to banks requiring structural adjustments, not to anyone. I am Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, the leader who caught them, who exposed them, who stopped them, the president who played that recording, who faced their pressure, who survived their threats, who built alternatives, who inspired resistance, who changed everything. Not because I'm special, not because I'm uniquely brave, not because I possess some extraordinary quality other African leaders lack, but because I refuse to accept what we've been told to accept, refuse to believe what we've been told to believe, refuse to surrender what we've been told to surrender. I caught them, with surveillance, with intelligence, with patience, with determination. 6 weeks of watching, documenting every meeting, recording every conversation, tracking every dollar, building evidence so comprehensive they couldn't deny it. My intelligence team worked in shadows while the CIA operative moved in daylight, thinking he was invisible, thinking African intelligence services were too incompetent to notice, thinking we were too backward to track him, thinking we were too dependent to challenge him. Every assumption wrong, every calculation flawed, every operation compromised. Caught them documenting their own crimes, their encrypted communications we decrypted, their secure channels we penetrated, their classified files we accessed, all of it legal, all of it justified, all of it necessary for national security. Caught them confessing their own conspiracy. That recording. 43 minutes of senior officials planning systematic destruction of African sovereignty. Not alleged planning, not suspected planning, documented planning, in their own voices, with their own words, admitting their own crimes. Caught them in their own words, the most damning evidence possible. Not African accusations they could dismiss as propaganda, not third-party reports they could question, not circumstantial evidence they could explain away, their own voices, their own plans, their own conspiracy, undeniable, irrefutable, permanent. I exposed them, publicly, completely, undeniably. Could have handled it quietly, could have negotiated privately, could have used the recording as leverage for better terms. That's what they expected. What previous African leaders would have done. Extract concessions, secure benefits, maintain relationships. I chose exposure instead. Total exposure, global exposure, permanent exposure. Played their recording for the world, not just African media, international media, 60 countries worth of reporters, every major network, every significant outlet, broadcast globally, translated into dozens of languages, shared millions of times, impossible to suppress, impossible to contain, impossible to deny. Release their evidence globally, not just the recording, all of it. The encrypted communications, the financial transfers, the operational plans, the budget allocations, the target lists, everything published online, available to anyone, downloadable, shareable, permanent. Made their conspiracy public knowledge. What was secret became known, what was hidden became visible, what was deniable became proven. The world saw exactly what they do, exactly how they operate, exactly what they plan. No more speculation, no more theory, just documented fact. Destroyed their deniability permanently. That's what terrified them most. Not the exposure itself, the permanence of exposure. They can't take it back, can't erase it, can't make people forget. The recording exists forever. The evidence is archived permanently. The truth is established conclusively. Future operations compromised, future denials worthless, future interference complicated exponentially, because now everyone knows, everyone has seen the proof, everyone understands the methods. I stopped them, expelled their operatives, terminated their operations, built collective defense, created alternatives, inspired continental resistance, changed the paradigm. Stopping them wasn't just about Burkina Faso. It was about Africa, about sovereignty, about dignity, about the future we're building versus the past they want to maintain. Expelled their operatives, not just the one we caught, all of them, every CIA officer, every intelligence operative, every covert agent, identified them, documented their activities, gave them 72 hours to leave, enforced the deadline, made it clear we're serious. Terminated their operations, not just temporarily, permanently. Closed their facilities, sealed their offices, froze their accounts, banned their front organizations, expelled their NGO covers, shut down their media outlets, dismantled their entire infrastructure, made it impossible for them to continue, made it costly for them to restart. Built collective defense, the African Intelligence Cooperation Network, 54 nations sharing information, coordinating responses, supporting each other, creating continent-wide awareness. Building systematic resistance. When they try to restart operations in one country, all countries know immediately. When they recruit assets in one nation, all nations investigate their own vulnerabilities. When they fund opposition in one territory, all territories examine their opposition funding. Collective defense makes individual operations impossible. That's what they didn't anticipate. Created alternatives to their systems, to their institutions, to their frameworks, to their control mechanisms, alternative trade routes. The railway project connecting Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, direct shipping to Asian markets, bypassing European ports, eliminating Western intermediaries, keeping more value in Africa. Alternative currency, gold-backed, resource-backed, not dependent on dollar or euro, not subject to their sanctions, not vulnerable to their manipulation. Real sovereignty requires economic sovereignty. Alternative partnerships with China, with Russia, with India, with Brazil, with nations that respect sovereignty, that offer genuine partnership, that don't demand subordination, that don't fund covert operations while claiming friendship. Alternative narratives through our own media, our own education systems, our own cultural production, teaching our children the truth about colonialism, about neocolonialism, about resistance, about dignity. Inspired continental resistance. That's what the recording achieved beyond Burkina Faso. Mali expelled Western operatives within 24 hours of my press conference. Niger terminated security agreements within 48 hours. Chad, Guinea, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, Ethiopia, Ghana, 18 nations taking action within 1 week. Not because I ordered them, because I showed them it's possible, because I proved resistance works, because I demonstrated that African nations can challenge Western power and survive. Young leaders across the continent watching, learning, planning, understanding that the old rules don't have to apply, that sovereignty can be real, that independence can be genuine, that dignity can be defended. Change the paradigm, from acceptance to resistance, from subordination to sovereignty, from dependency to independence. The old paradigm, accept Western interference as inevitable, tolerate covert operations as normal, pretend partnerships are equal when they're not, maintain relationships even when they're exploitative. Stay quiet about abuses to preserve access. The new paradigm, expose interference publicly, prosecute operations legally, demand genuine equality, terminate exploitative relationships, speak truth regardless of consequences. And this is just the beginning of something larger, something more significant, something that will reshape Africa's relationship with the world, something that will redefine sovereignty for the 21st century, something that will inspire resistance globally. The beginning of African sovereignty, real sovereignty, enforced sovereignty. Not theoretical sovereignty that exists on paper but not in practice. Not nominal sovereignty that's claimed but not defended. Not symbolic sovereignty that's declared but not real. Actual sovereignty. Enforced sovereignty, defended sovereignty. Sovereignty means nothing if you don't enforce it. That's what I learned. That's what I'm teaching. Real sovereignty means controlling your territory completely. Knowing who operates in your country, monitoring foreign activities, restricting covert operations, prosecuting violations, expelling interferers, defending your space. Real sovereignty means controlling your resources, deciding how they're extracted, determining how they're sold, choosing your partners, setting your terms, keeping fair value, building your wealth. Real sovereignty means controlling your narrative, teaching your history accurately, educating your children truthfully, producing your culture authentically, sharing your perspective globally, refusing imposed narratives. Enforced sovereignty means acting when sovereignty is violated, not just protesting, acting. When foreign operatives conduct covert operations, arrest them. When foreign governments fund opposition, expose them. When foreign institutions impose conditions, reject them. When foreign media spreads propaganda, ban them. Enforcement makes sovereignty real. The beginning of African independence, true independence, defended independence, not the independence of the 1,960 seconds that was ceremonial. Flags changed, anthems written, leaders installed, but systems remained. Economic control continued, political interference persisted. Military bases stayed, real power never transferred. True independence means breaking those systems, completely, permanently, irreversibly. Breaking economic systems that extract wealth while claiming development, that impose debt while promising growth, that demand privatization while ensuring foreign ownership, that maintain dependency while proclaiming partnership. Breaking political systems that fund opposition while claiming neutrality, that coordinate regime change while preaching democracy, that manipulate elections while promoting freedom, that interfere constantly while denying involvement. Breaking military systems that maintain bases while claiming security partnerships, that conduct operations while respecting sovereignty supposedly, that train forces while ensuring dependency, that provide equipment while maintaining control. Breaking information systems that shape narratives while claiming objectivity, that spread propaganda while calling it news, that manufacture consent while pretending independence, that control discourse while allowing debate supposedly. Defended independence means protecting what we've achieved, permanently, vigilantly, collectively. The African Intelligence Cooperation Network defends our independence. 54 nations monitoring threats, sharing information instantly, coordinating responses effectively. Supporting each other consistently, building continental defense systematically. The African Sovereignty Archive defends our independence, documenting interference, preserving evidence, educating populations, informing resistance, creating permanent record, making denial impossible. The alternative systems defend our independence. Trade routes they don't control, currencies they can't manipulate, partnerships they can't dominate, narratives they can't shape. Building independence into infrastructure. The beginning of African dignity, earned dignity, protected dignity, not dignity granted by others, not dignity recognized conditionally, not dignity dependent on approval, dignity we earned through resistance, dignity we claimed through defiance, dignity we protected through strength. Earned dignity comes from refusing subordination, from standing up, from speaking truth, from accepting consequences, from surviving pressure, from building alternatives. I earned dignity by catching them, by exposing them, by stopping them, by facing their pressure without breaking, by surviving their threats without compromising, by building alternatives while they predicted failure. Africa is earning dignity collectively, by coordinating resistance, by supporting each other, by building together, by refusing together, by succeeding together, proving African capability, demonstrating African strength, showing African potential. Protected dignity requires constant vigilance, because they never stop trying, never stop interfering, never stop attempting to restore control, never accept genuine independence, never respect real sovereignty. The CIA operative I detained, still in custody 18 months later, despite weekly demands for release, despite threats of consequences, despite diplomatic pressure, still detained, still facing trial, still serving as reminder that African nations can hold Western operatives accountable, that sovereignty includes prosecution, that interference has consequences, that impunity is ending, that the old rules are changing. His trial broadcasts globally, evidence presented publicly, methods exposed completely, networks revealed systematically, future operations compromised permanently. Every day of testimony is education. Every piece of evidence is lesson. Every witness is confirmation. Western media tries ignoring it, minimizing it, dismissing it, but African media covers everything. Al Jazeera broadcasts key moments. RT analyzes testimony. Chinese media discusses implications. The story spreads despite suppression attempts. The recording was the catalyst, the spark that ignited continental resistance. Before the recording, African nations suspected interference but couldn't prove it, collected evidence but feared presenting it, understood the patterns but lacked documentation, wanted to resist but felt isolated. The recording changed everything, provided undeniable proof, showed systematic interference, revealed operational methods, documented conspiracy, made denial impossible, created foundation for resistance. 43 minutes of audio changed continental dynamics, shifted power relationships, enabled collective action, inspired coordinated resistance, proved resistance possible, demonstrated exposure works. The archive is the foundation, the permanent base for ongoing resistance. The African Sovereignty Archive in Ouagadougou, climate-controlled vault, maximum security, housing evidence from 18 nations, thousands of documents, hundreds of recordings. Comprehensive proof of neo-colonial operations. Open to researchers, available to journalists, accessible to educators, used by prosecutors, referenced by diplomats, studied by students, creating permanent record, enabling ongoing education, supporting continued resistance. Every month, new evidence added, new operations exposed, new interference documented, new conspiracies revealed. The archive grows, the documentation expands, the proof accumulates. In 50 years, historians will study this archive, understand exactly how neo-colonialism functioned, learn precisely how resistance succeeded, see clearly how sovereignty was reclaimed. The archive ensures our struggle isn't forgotten, our victories aren't erased, our methods aren't lost. The network is the defense, the continental system protecting sovereignty. African Intelligence Cooperation Network, 54 member nations, real-time information sharing, coordinated response protocols, collective defense mechanisms, mutual support systems. When Senegal detects CIA operative recruiting military officers, alerts go to 53 other nations within minutes. When Chad discovers financial transfers to opposition, investigations start across the continent within hours. When Tanzania identifies media manipulation, all nations examine their media landscape within days. The network's first year, 17 major operations exposed, 43 operatives identified and expelled, $127 million in covert funding traced and blocked. 28 front organizations banned, 11 media outlets shut down, systematic interference disrupted continent-wide. CIA's Africa division in chaos, decades of network building destroyed in months, operational methods exposed publicly, cover organizations identified systematically, assets burned continuously, effectiveness degraded severely. The resistance is spreading beyond Africa, inspiring globally. Venezuela studying our methods, Syria analyzing our strategies, Iran examining our networks, Cuba learning from our experience, every nation resisting Western pressure watching what we're doing, learning what works, adapting our approaches, building their own defenses. The recording became global symbol, proof that resistance is possible, evidence that exposure works, demonstration that sovereignty can be defended, inspiration for resistance everywhere. International conferences now discuss the Traoré model, academic papers analyze the Burkina Faso approach, diplomatic circles debate the African intelligence network. We've changed. The conversation shifted the paradigm, created new possibilities. The future is ours, not theirs, not determined by them, not controlled by them. Ours. Our children will grow up in sovereign nations, real sovereignty, defended sovereignty, not theoretical sovereignty that exists in name only. Actual sovereignty that controls territory, resources, narrative, future. Our economies will serve us, not them, not extracting our wealth for their benefit, not maintaining our poverty for their profit, not ensuring our dependency for their control, serving us. Building our prosperity, creating our wealth, developing our potential. Our governments will answer to us, not to Washington, not to Paris, not to Brussels, not to London, to us, our citizens, our needs, our priorities, our vision. Democracy that's real, accountability that's genuine, representation that's authentic. Our narratives will be ours, not imposed, not shaped by foreign media, not controlled by external interests, not manufactured by propaganda systems. Ours, our stories, our perspectives, our truths, our voices. And nothing will ever be the same. That's not hope, that's fact, that's reality, that's what we've achieved. The old relationship between Africa and the West is dead, killed by that recording, destroyed by that exposure, ended by that resistance. It can't be restored, can't be rebuilt, can't be maintained. They can't go back to operating in darkness. The light is permanent. They can't restore deniability. The evidence is archived. They can't resume interference without consequences. The network is watching. New relationship emerging, based on genuine equality, mutual respect, real partnership, fair exchange, honest dealing, or no relationship at all. Those are the options now. Accept real equality or lose access, respect sovereignty or face expulsion, deal fairly or be excluded. Some Western governments are adapting, recognizing new reality, adjusting approaches, accepting genuine partnership. Others resist, cling to old methods, attempt to restore old relationships, try to maintain old control. They fail, repeatedly, expensively, publicly. Each failure makes adaptation more necessary. Each exposure makes resistance stronger. Each attempt makes change more inevitable. I watch this transformation from my office in Ouagadougou, the capital they wanted to destabilize, the government they planned to overthrow, the president they discussed assassinating, still here, still leading, still building, still resisting, still winning. Every morning, I receive intelligence reports, operations they're attempting, operations we're stopping, operations we're exposing. Every week, I speak with other African leaders, coordinating responses, sharing strategies, supporting resistance, building solidarity, strengthening networks, creating unity. Every month, I visit the archive, see new evidence added, watch documentation grow, observe education expanding, witness impact spreading, understand significance deepening. Every year I see progress, real progress, measurable progress, undeniable progress, sovereignty strengthening, independence deepening, dignity growing, future brightening. This is my legacy, not buildings, not monuments, not personal wealth. This, the recording I played, the exposure I created, the resistance I inspired, the network I helped build, the sovereignty I defended, the dignity I protected, the future I enabled. When I'm gone, the archive will remain, the network will continue, the resistance will persist, the sovereignty will endure, the independence will strengthen, the dignity will grow. Because this isn't about me. Never was. It's about Africa, about our children, about our future, about our dignity, about our sovereignty, about our independence. I am Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, the leader who refused to accept what we were told to accept, who challenged what we were told not to challenge, who exposed what we were told to ignore, who built what we were told was impossible, who survived what we were told would destroy us. The president who caught them in their conspiracy, who exposed them to the world, who stopped them from succeeding, who inspired continental resistance, who changed African trajectory, who proved sovereignty is possible. I caught them, I exposed them, I stopped them. And this is just the beginning of African century, the beginning of genuine sovereignty, the beginning of real independence, the beginning of earned dignity, the beginning of our future. The recording was the catalyst, the archive is the foundation, the network is the defense, the resistance is spreading, the future is ours. And nothing will ever be the same. Not for Africa, not for the West, not for the world, not for power relationships, Not for sovereignty concepts, not for resistance movements, not for future generations. Everything changed, permanently, irreversibly, completely. And we're just getting started.